Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and as you can see today, I am not joined by David. He is not going to be with us today, it's just us. Welcome anyway. As you're familiar with how these sessions work, please, if you have comments, questions, start typing them in the LinkedIn comments section right now so I can get through them as quickly as I can. And as we prepare for that, a brief description of how these work. Basically, during the week before, and during the sessions, you propose questions, and we provide you our best answers, our most practical, most tactical advice on how to advance your practice and hopefully to delight yourself and your consulting firm clients. Good morning, Same. Thank you for saying hi. All right, so Jaren is with us today. Jaren, if you're okay, please put the first question so that we can get started right away. All right, this question is from Jim. Thank you, Jim. I tried to close a deal too urgently and offended the buyer. I have managed to get a follow-up call with her. What could I say in that call to alleviate the rift and rebuild trust? Thank you, Jim, for posing your question and submitting that. You're in a tough position, one step ahead already, because your client has agreed to, or your prospect has agreed to take a call with you. This is a moment that calls for lots of self-awareness. You can start by saying that you're sorry you made missteps, which diminish her trust in you. And reaffirming that relationships are the most important aspects of doing business, more so perhaps even than projects. And with that, you would invite her to take a step back from the discussion about the project and just have an open conversation about your relationship so that you can reset it. And you can be open and say that you said some things a few days ago that caused a rift between you, and ask her, what can you do to repair the damage and get you back on a positive track? The understanding is that perhaps that will not get you back into the engagement with them, but you're prioritizing their relationship. So our experience is that using sincere contrition and demonstrating your interest in their relationship will go a really long way. Usually what we find is that the client is more forgiving than what we give them credit for, and will say that we all make mistakes and it's willing to forget and to move on. All right. Hopefully that helps. If you're here, Jim, drop us a note, and good luck in rebuilding that relationship. We have a few questions here, so I'm going to try to address it. First question from Sameh is about handling multiple clients. Any thoughts or best practices? Say you have two that require a week each. Would you book a third? Okay, so if I get your question correctly, you're asking about managing your capacity as a solo practitioner in a multi-client context. So I'm going to assume all of that is true, and then you let me know if I missed it. So in that scenario, think really whether the clients require you to be full-time or not, what their expectations are that you're full-time and not, and what commitments you made when you first entered into an agreement with them. We find that normally clients are very flexible, and what they really care about is the work getting done? Is it getting done on time and with the quality I expect it to? And is our flow of communication good enough so that we know we're all on the same page? So build up a plan that makes sure that you're responsive to each client. Make sure that each client gets what they need when they need it. And then be transparent about your windows of availability and your timelines for responses. Clients don't necessarily expect you to be full-time with them unless that's a promise you have made. So starting from the promises of the commitments you made, look forward and say, okay, how can I integrate serving more than one client as once? As you work into a boutique firm, or as you expand your team, you can leverage your team members in different projects to ensure that responsiveness and those milestones are met with projects that work concurrently. Hopefully that helps. Let me know. All right, we have another question. What is the scope of digital transformation in consulting work? Wow, that is, and what's expected from a consultant? Thank you, Rishan. That is a question that it's much larger than what I can answer. And there are fellow kind of listeners here and folks who come in and comment that are really experts in digital transformation. So how broad you are within digital transformation or how narrow will depend on your expertise and your experience. Our recommendation in general is that you approach it with as narrow a focus as possible, where you know there are kind of fish for you to find in your market and to be able to grow. The expectations from a consultant vary so widely from client to client, depending on the type of work you do and who you do it for. So more than asking us, fellow consultants, and we can tell you what's typical and what's not, digital transformation expert consultants will tell you even kind of one layer deeper what's typical and what's not. Also, ask your prospects, what do they expect from you as a consultant in their projects? And hopefully that helps enrich the conversation. So I know that was an incomplete answer, but that's what your general question can get. Hello, Rick. You as a client says they really want your services, but can't afford until your help works. Ideas. That's an interesting question, right? So they are budget constrained. They know your effort will create an ROI for them, but they don't have the cash yet. And that's a very tough position for you to be in, because you're balancing, the promise of payment for your fees with taking on some level of risk. That's basically what your client is saying. Your client is saying, look, I need you to take risks with me, right? And they're articulating it by saying, yeah, we can't really afford you until this works. So in general, we advocate for you having fees that at the very minimum cover your cost and cover your time. The remainder of the fees beyond that, it depends on your appetite for risk, how much you believe that the project will succeed to the extent that your client will be able to pay your fees. And in general, when you enter into agreements that involve a risk portion, you will charge a premium for it. Okay, your client, it should be easy or relatively easy for them to understand that a cash in hand with security is not the same as you taking a risk and walking with them. So make sure that level of risk is reflected in your fees and in how much you're paying out. And think about multiples that are relatively significant, specifically for the client. That may change, or perhaps not, how the client views fees in relation to the work that you're doing. And have them also think and really outline the value piece of your engagement. What is the return they're expecting to get? What are the different sources of value for the engagement? Are they committed to getting that value out of the engagement as well? Because I assume in general, it's not all under your control. If those three things are true, that they're willing, that they see the full value, that they're committed to respecting your work and valuing your work within the engagement, and they're also committed to doing their part to materialize, then your chances of actually getting value out of it increase relatively to when those three things are not true. So think about it in terms of your appetite for risk and what's the value of that risk that you will be taking as well. Okay, good. I'm glad that helps. And thank you, Joanna, for providing an answer to Rishan. I appreciate that as well. Okay, Jaren, would you please pull up the next question that folks had submitted earlier on? Okay, and this is also about fees related to proposals, coincidentally. So Samantha sent us a question saying an eager prospect called last week. He seemed very intent to work with us. And after a great conversation, he asked for a proposal. I was sure he was going to sign, but now he's hesitating and crying budget woes. What now? Okay, Samantha, you are in a position that it has not been uncommon in 2023. And it's also a position that where you put yourself relatively in it, because most likely than not, you submitted a proposal before you had the full context. Full context includes discussing budget, discussing what we call their heart attack number, which is basically a number that's so high that would give prospects a heart attack to see, and possibly a conversation around value as well. That's my understanding from your question. So you kind of prematurely laid out a proposal given the enthusiasm that you had in the conversation and the momentum that you were starting to build. What now? So the next step right now is to explore whether their comment on budget is a red herring, basically the easy way out, or it's an actual constraint that the organization has and they're committed to moving forward with the project and moving forward with the value. You would approach it a little bit different. Figure out if what they're saying is, this approach is not for me. In most cases, that's what folks are saying. So if that is the case, right, figure out how to make the project one that meets their top priorities. What did they like? What didn't they like about your proposal? What really touched on what they were expecting to see, and where did your proposal miss the mark? Say you're in the other route and budget is a red herring, right? And what they're really saying is, we don't see the value. Then tell them you understand this is not a priority for them and get ready to move on. They basically told you what they needed from you. All right. Jaren, can you please pull up the next question? I know you're a big fan of presenting options or alternatives in proposals. Yes, we are. How many do you recommend we present? Do you typically put a cost budget to each option? A question from Samantha. So thank you, Samantha. Alternatives come in the proposal, and to tie it into the previous question, not during the context discussion, or as you're discussing kind of what their diagnostic is, what the discovery is, but when you're actually proposing, right? Once you've aligned on context and you're ready to propose. We typically have 3 alternatives in any given proposal. And that gives you room to look at distinct pricing for each alternative. To your question, yes, once you're proposing, each alternative includes its own distinct pricing. And it gives you room to help your client think through, okay, with the numbers they gave you in the context and how they're thinking about the project, what are their alternatives? Which are ways in which they can get completely or partially towards that same end goal and still meet their priorities. So 3 alternatives gives you some room. If you want to listen back to some of our previous sessions, we discuss kind of levers you can use to build alternatives, or you can search through David's articles. And on that note, we're almost at the 15-minute mark for today. So we have a few suggestions and calls to actions for you. If you like to see and to come every Monday, which we hope you would, there's an easier way to get a reminder on your calendar. Grab the link that Jaren just shared on your screen, which is davidafields.com/Monday Live. It updates every week to either show you the recording, say today will update and it will take you to this recording. And by next Monday, if you click on it again, it will take you to next Monday LinkedIn Live. So that's our first request out of you. The second one is that you connect with us. So connect with David, connect with myself if you haven't done already. Our handles are somewhere in here below me. Use those. We'll be delighted to be connected with you on LinkedIn. Third request is that you write to us with questions. Oh, sorry, that you subscribe to the articles, and now we're making you dizzy back and forth, right? So I'll keep it there, Jared. You subscribe to David's articles, and you have the LinkedIn there as well. And then you send us questions by writing to info@davidafields.com. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. And as David always says, and we firmly believe, our work is about our clients. It's about them. So think about them and what will benefit them. Where do you add value for them? And can you delight them? And that's the path to a successful consulting practice. Thank you. See you next Monday.